Okay, I thought we would just have a look now around the screen that we use every Sunday, just to look at what some different things do, different issues you might run into along the way, how we run things, and that sort of thing, just to get some understanding around what this screen is and what it does, and what all these other things do that we may or may not want to use. Cool, so I'm not going to go through absolutely everything because obviously there's a whole lot of stuff that we're not going to use, like flex right there. You're not going to be using that. Yeah, definitely don't want to be using that. It's going to cause you some issues. So cool. So I've got another video on how to load tracks onto here that you can go and look at. So that talks about packing up these folders and adding the hyperdraw and that thing onto the tracks. This one's just going to be about how to use this. Cool, so let's say you arrive on a Sunday morning and you're the drummer, so your job is looking after the tracks, and I'm going to do some songs, and I might start with Brighter. So instead of leaving all these like this and having to scroll through between all the songs, which you can do if you find that easier, but what a lot of the drummers do is they go and they make themselves a playlist. So say Bright is my first song, Getting to Use my second song. So when you move these, just make sure that you're grabbing them from this channel strip. Then I'm going to go Fire and let's say Anchor. Cool. So say those are my songs. You can just pick them up, drag them to the top. As long as you drag them from here, don't drag these out here, because then you're going to put them on the wrong line. So you'll see when one of these is selected that it also selects the region there. So you can either select stuff with the mouse, or I think that one's way over there. So, or use the arrow keys. I encourage you to use the arrow keys, especially when you set them up like this. It just saves you from accidentally clicking something somewhere that you're not meant to do. Yeah, so let's say it's going to create fades. Let's say I end up with a region like that, which is something that quite commonly happens. Logic will only play within that region, so it's going to be fine while I'm doing this track, but as soon as I go to do the next one and I hit my full stop, which is our key command for starting the selected track, then it's going to jump back to this track, and I'm going to end up just playing the same track over and over again. And it's surprising how often that's come up as an issue with new guys when they just don't realise what this little green bit up here is. So to get rid of that, so just to, let's say I want to do Getting to You, but it's playing a lot because it's only going to play in that region. So all you got to do is click on it and it's gone. Sweet, so easy fix. But by using the arrow keys, you avoid the possibility of clicking something up there. Cool. So that's nice and easy. So the only thing with shifting these around, obviously, is when you close it down at the end of the service, just don't save it. And that way, when it gets reopened again, these will be back in place, but that's the reason they're in alphabetical order too. So if somebody does do that, you can reset them quite easily and then put them and then save it, so it's back in the right place. Cool. So let's have a look up here. So we've got the inspector. You're not really going to need to use that on this screen. There's nothing on there at the moment anyway because it's a folder. But let's say I opened a folder. Cool. So now I've got that channel there. Cool. But you don't really need that. You don't want to be changing the volume here. But just don't change the volume there. Not, yeah. Because what happens is if I say I go on this one, what's in there? Nothing right there. Let's say I want to make that vocal a bit louder and I go and turn it up here. That's on audio 5. That means when I come to this one, that's whatever that one is. I'm also going to turn up that vocal on that track. See, because see, even when I've soloed that, it's now soloed the same thing on this track. Because it's the same, it's called something different, which is awkward, but it's because it's actually on the same line, it's going to affect the same thing in the same way. So because all these are brought into these channels, then each one of these folders, all of these are actually playing from the same channel strip, as in the line this way, as each other. So all the guides are all on the same channel strip, all the click are all on the same channel strip, and so on and so forth with the rest of them. And that's why we use Hyperdraw Volume for changing volumes. So if I want to turn up that one there, that one there, let's make it bigger so I can see the Hyperdraw. And then I'm just going to drag the line up. You are my freedom, we lift you higher, lift you higher, your love, or down if I want to make it quieter. So one thing you can do, this region thing where it is useful, let's say I want to reset something, like, what's this, use a synth, and I just want to listen to this section of it over and over again. So whatever I'm doing, I might be working with the volume. Cool. And so what that will do is just cycle through. Cool. Which is a handy tool when you're trying to make some adjustments on certain things. Cool. So just reset that to 0. Unsolo it. If you ever have a situation where you go to play tracks and nothing happens, possible that something's soloed somewhere, first thing to do is always to check in here. So you go Logic Pro, Preferences, Audio, and just make sure that your output is the correct output, which should be the PreSonus Fire Studio, which isn't plugged into my computer at the moment, so it's not there. So make sure that's selected as output device, and then hit apply changes. If it doesn't show up, often when it's been unplugged and then you open Logic, you plug it back in, or even open Logic when it's already plugged back in, it won't show up as an option, and you actually have to close Logic down, restart it. That's quite common, which you just get used to. Cool. So the other thing with these folders, as you would have noticed, that little bent arrow gets you out of the folder and back to your main screen. Cool. So the inspector we don't really need there, so we can just click that away. That gives you a bigger screen to look at. The other thing that you'll sometimes get showing up is this over here. Cool. So you just come to the edge there, double click. That's your media browser for finding things that you want to use that you don't really need on this screen. That's on the bin at the moment. One thing you can do with the bin is, if there's been stuff in here that's been deleted away, but it hasn't cleared the project, you come up here, select bin at the top, and then go to edit, select unused, because obviously you only want to delete stuff you're not using. You don't want to delete stuff that you want to use, which there is nothing in there. It's all nice and clean, so that's good. But if there was, they'd be highlighted, and then you can just hit delete and they will go off to your trash. So let's see what we've got in here. We've got a whole bunch of stuff in here. So the way I look at trash is, let's say the computer is like my property. Okay, so I've got a bin in the corner of my office, and what I've done is I have taken these things and I've gone and thrown them in that bin. They haven't left the property. They haven't left the house. They haven't even left the room. They're still there. So really, they haven't gone anywhere. And if I need one of these things again, I can just drag it straight on out of the bin without any issues, and it will be there. What I want to do is I want to empty the bin. Okay. When I empty the bin, then it gets emptied into the dumpster outside. It's no longer in the house, and yeah, it's all good. And then that bin's gonna get emptied or whatever in the real world. What I have is I have another option here up here under Finder, which has come out now because my trash is open. This one called Secure Empty Trash. What that's gonna do is that's like the dumpster taking the stuff in the rubbish truck and going and burying it at the dump. There's no way that you're going to get that stuff back, but what it does is it deletes kind of files that are attached to these files. So that's like a project screen. I go and empty my trash and it gets rid of that. What this one will do is it will get rid of anything that's also associated with that, things like overviews and blah blah blah, all these other extra things. So what that will do is take way longer. Like it'll take hours. So don't hit that if you're working with this in a Sunday. That's like an overnight job. If you're deleting a whole lot of stuff, but at least empty the trash. Cool. That's just what's open at the moment. So that's all nice and clean. So I'll come to my edge here. Now see, I'm selected on Finder still, so I just want to click on the bar at the top, select Logic again, and then get rid of that. Cool. So this is just another way of accessing those preferences. So preferences is like settings. Mac just call it preferences. And then you've got another set of settings which you're not going to use. Not going to use that. Well, you're not going to use that from there. Not going to use flex. Not going to use that at the moment. Not going to use that, or that. Cool. Save. The good thing about this is it shows you all the key commands on the side. Command S. Just hit the key command followed by S, which I won't do now in case it does a long save. But that's just because I'm using it off my external hard drive. But that's nice and easy. Command S saves. But generally you don't need to do that during a project. So full stop was our key command to start, spacebar to stop. Nice and easy. Make sure when you get to the end of a track, if you're not going straight into a new song, so let's say you finish the praise set and then you're doing, you're going to go into notices. you'll end up in this gap here. Okay, so that gap buys you some time for sure, but eventually you're going to end up hitting that new track. So you just want to make sure that you're aware of that and you stop. Cool. So what else have we got? I'm not going to use a lot of that stuff. Undo, Command Z is going to be something you use a lot of. If you do something that was a mistake that you don't want to do, Command Z just to undo it, and you can go back through a whole bunch of steps, which is quite handy. We don't need to use this stuff at the moment. Cycle through windows we do use sometimes. If we have a different window open, sometimes when we do, like with the Groundbreak guys, we do, we might do an item song or something, or a few items, and what we might do is we might just have them on another separate project screen rather than putting them on this one, and it just makes it easy to delete that whole screen away afterwards. So we have two windows open, and then that command and that little dash thing that you see there is the one above your tab key, between escape and tab, and that will flick straight from one window to another. Yeah, but not something you use a lot of. Colors, that's what we use to color these things when we bring them in. That's all on the bringing them in video. Not going to use any of this stuff down here. And this stuff here, mixer, I mean, you're not really going to use that because that's just all on all these audio files. The only thing that you might use that for is just to check for things like this where people have adjusted volumes, which I think you'll find that those are actually the clicks and the guides which have been turned up, so that's alright. I'll just leave those like that. So what you will find is when that's been done is if I come in here and I look at my HyperDraw, yeah, no, it's not those. That will also affect the HyperDraw. So what have I got? There's my guide and click there. So there's a couple of tracks that somebody's gone and turned up. So I just want to zero those off again. So you keep all of these flat at 0. Cool. Help will work if you're connected to the internet and you need to search something. YouTube is probably more help than help is a lot of the time. These things, global tracks is something that you might use if you're changing tempos. You can set a tempo line above here, or you can just click it up here, and you can actually change that tempo by putting dots in and dragging it up and down. Normally I use that if we're setting up clicks, like if you're doing a transition between, for an intro or something where you've got a tempo change in there, then you can use that and it will change the spacing of your bars so you can set your clicks up and that sort of thing. If you're using it in this screen, that's just if a click doesn't work without it, which you'll normally find in those ones that change tempo. Sometimes you have to put that in there just to keep it happy, but generally you don't have to worry about that. Cool. So there's probably not a lot else that you actually need to use in this screen. Most of this stuff is, you know, when you're doing your editing and that sort of thing. Yeah, that one there, name regions by tracks, that's just if you that's normally when you bring something in, it's on that video, it's just to make sure that that name there matches up with that name there. So you just select whichever one and then name region by channel strips. Cool, but that is nice and easy, and the old battery's getting low, so I better go plug in. Yeah, I hope that's helped, just giving you some idea of what to look out for. The main thing to remember is those preferences, making sure that your audio box is set. Sorry, your Fire Studio audio box is the other one. That's set as your output. Double click to open folders, bend arrow to leave the folder. Tools up there, that's to set your command key tool. You want to have that as your magnifying glass, just so you can have that handy and ready when you've got to make something bigger. You've got all your zoom adjustments here, depending on how you want to look at it. You might want to look at it bigger, like that, or like that, whatever. Probably depends how good your eyesight is. But yeah, I mean, you know, if you're setting up your playlist like we've done at the top there, then you might want to make that nice and big so it's easier to see. Cool, yeah. The other thing with these is those white ones there. Keep clicking on that, go away. Those white ones there mean that they're muted. You hit the M key to unmute them or mute them. Okay. We mute them that way so that we're muting the individual region, we're not muting the whole channel strip, and also because it's easier to see. But mainly because you don't want to mute the whole channel strip because there might be something different on there somewhere else. Yeah, cool. I think that's about it.